Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Crimson Gray. In the last episode, I continued dating Lizzie, and while I was doing that, I did a little research on her background, along with getting her to agree to do a blood test, and, well, we've learned that her mother was part of some clinical trials that were conducted by the big pharma corporation that everybody seems to use in this town of theirs. Back when it went under a different name, and, well, the clinical trials had a bunch of drugs that had to be recalled back, and Lizzie's mother was crazy enough to take the trials while she was still pregnant with Lizzie. So, more than likely, the clinical trials is what ended up causing some chemical imbalances in Lizzie's head, shall we say. And the blood test that we got her to do more or less confirmed as much here, because she has some numbers, which for some reason the pharmacists that we consulted with weren't really willing to divulge in much detail, were extraordinarily fucking high. So much so to where he pretty much considers them an absolute danger to everybody around them, and that they should be locked up. And, well, I'm not really gonna argue with him about that here, especially considering what happened at the end of the last episode, but I'll get to that in just a second. But I decided to, well, my protagonist decided here that he would just try to hold a few secrets from the pharmacist regarding Lizzie's identity and everything. And yeah, one thing led to another. We went on a date, and Lizzie invited John to her house, and I ended up getting axed in the back for my trouble. Because apparently the medication I did choose for her didn't work, I guess. But instead of going back to the different choices of medication I can give her, instead, like I was originally thinking of doing at the end of the last episode, I think I'm going to try my other options first, while Lizzie is trying to attack me in her house, and see if maybe by some insane miracle I can get her to calm down and not kill me. Okay, here we are. So instead of doing the common sense thing and running for your dear life, I'm going to just try stand firm this time. John did his best to stay in place, afraid that running would just make her chase him. But as she got closer, she scraped the axe along the wall and gave him a smile that was anything but sweet. This won't hurt very much, and then things will be better. Trust me. Why not? We've already gone down the rabbit hole very deep at this point, so why not just go a little bit deeper and trust her? Swallowing, John stayed where he was. Lizzie got even closer, her smile widening, and then her other hand came up. Instead of a weapon, it held a dark rag. It was over his mouth and nose before he could react. Stunned, John only struggled instinctually. Then the chemical fumes overwhelmed him. Oh shit, she's knocking me out. John woke to the feeling of something tight on his wrists. At first he thought he must be tangled in the sheets, but when he tried to move his hands, they were stuck. The memories returned in a bitterly cold flood. Lizzie had actually knocked him out by force and brought him wherever this was. I'm going to assume basement. His blurry vision slowly returned, and he could make out a rough basement around him. He could just see a heavy metal door at the top of a set of stairs. Why is there a big heavy metal door in a house like this, leading to the basement? It looked as though there were shelves and tools around the walls, but he couldn't pay attention to those. I wonder if it was to confine her. While she was young, I mean. Not if Lizzie stayed in front of him, eyes fixed on his face. I'm glad you didn't kill me yet. I'm glad you're awake now. Are you feeling okay? Well, that's great. We're both glad about something. Now let's use that as a let's use that commonality between the both of us as a starting point to a conversation where, well, could you just let us go, please? Okay. I didn't want it to have to be this way, John. But I don't have a choice. All I did was look around your house a bit. Overreaction much? You're confused, John. You don't understand how much this matters. I'll help you understand. What are you going to do to me? Don't be afraid, John. Everything is going to be all right. I'm completely empty. There's nothing inside me. There's never been anything inside me. The emptiness craves something. I didn't understand what I needed for years and years. Eventually I realized that I needed a person. A specific person. And I was the unlucky sap, right? But I didn't know who. Occasionally there would be a flicker of feeling. I'd watch someone for a while, but they were never what I needed. Nothing actually mattered. Until I met you. But why did... Let me finish. Yes, Missy. For so long I could barely even bear to look at you. The feelings were too intense. And then I couldn't bring myself to talk to you. I was afraid it would all just disappear. But the feelings didn't go away. They got stronger. You were made for me, John. You need to understand that. But you don't understand. Because you're confused. That's why I need to keep you here. You think this is going to help. It may be difficult at first, John, but you'll come to understand. I promise you will. You mean I'll come to be fully subjected to Stockholm Syndrome eventually? That's what you actually mean, right? After all, I have days and days with you all to myself. Some people are going to wonder where he is eventually, Lizzie. Just saying. Days and days. John recalled they were going into a full week of vacation. That meant she could keep him here a full 9 days before they had to return to school. Really? He doesn't have to return home like once or something here, or meet up with his psychiatrist or anybody? Well, shit, you're fucked, dude. That was no accident. She'd coldly planned the entire thing. Maybe she'd been manipulating him since before she even asked for the date. A likely proposition. Part of him was terrified. Part of him was furious with her. And another part, his depression saw a twisted mirror of his own feelings. Now's not the time to be overly empathetic. I mean, we are kind of being held hostage. But the worst he had ever done was say unkind things, not this. Just what did she plan to do to him anyway? That axe of hers gives me a few ideas. As he looked around the basement, he saw a lot of heavy tools. Some of the hammers and knives looked as if they'd been used. Now I got dozens of ideas. John slumped against the ropes binding him to the chair and just wept. You chose this, man. Although, to be fair, I helped you make some decisions along the way, but still, you had to. You just had to. It's your own shoddy reasoning that ultimately brought you here to begin with. He wasn't sure how long the release of emotion continued, but when it was over, John felt as though his mind had been purged. His current situation might be pretty bad, but he still had options. He could figure out something. Assuming he'd figured out what he even wanted to do. Get the hell out of Dodge? Call for the police? The sane thing to do would be to find a way to escape, contact the police. Yes, exactly, we're in full agreement. Or maybe it would be safer to convince Lizzie to calm down, take more medication, not hurt him. Somehow I doubt more medication's really gonna help her here. Or you, for that matter. John! We're going to have ever so much time together. Aren't you excited? My heart is racing. He needed to say something, turn the situation around, but it was just so hard to focus. Fine, I'll do it for you. Something. There, I said something. Now calm down. Before I got to know you, I thought this would be the easy part. What? Tying me to a fucking chair? In your basement? I thought I understood how people worked. Some things never made sense to me, but others are so simple. Lizzie walked up to one of the walls and began running her fingers over the tools there. She picked up a knife and caressed the edge, partially turned away from him. I thought that once I found you, I could make you mine, and then I would feel whole. But you see, I underestimated just how much you would change me. I'm so much happier, and everything is so much more complicated. Normal human emotions will do that to you, make life complicated. Welcome to feeling somewhat closer to normal humanity, Lizzie. Enjoy your stay. Preferably in a padded cell where you can't harm anybody. She walked toward him, wearing a soft, loving expression, but still holding the knife. John froze and held his breath as she walked behind him. I want all of you, John. Even the parts I didn't know existed before. Such as? If I hurt you, I would never really have what I want. The knife slid past his face, but only as Lizzie moved to embrace him. She wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed herself against his back, inhaling deeply. I love you so much. I wouldn't be satisfied with just a shell of you. Yeah, I can totally believe that. Without warning, she pulled back. The adoration in her expression was gone, replaced with an empty gaze fixated on him. But that makes this so much harder. I do not like where this is going. What? What are you going to do to me? I don't know. She doesn't even know what she's going to do to me. That is bad. I wish I knew. I took time to think, but it didn't help. Okay, so I don't think begging's gonna really help me here. Reasoning with her might work, but somehow I doubt charming her is really going to work in my favor somehow, even though by all sense of logic, charming your bloodthirsty yandere should be enough to you know, calm her down a bit. Well, maybe not calm her down, but at least make her feel less homicidal. I'm gonna try reason. Lizzie, think about this. Do you think controlling me like this will bring us together? You'll forgive me. It's more important for you to understand. But you said it yourself. You're not sure how you're going to make me understand. Shouldn't you try talking to me first? I need to think. Maybe that wouldn't work, but he hoped it stuck with her. She could reason, even if in a strange way. Maybe he could get through to her. Lizzie paced around the room for a while, muttering under her breath, then suddenly straightened. Throwing aside the knife, it embedded itself in the wall. She went to a closet and after a few seconds of searching, emerged with a chain. I'm going to assume reasoning failed big time. Yes, this will be better. I'm sorry, John. I should have thought of this earlier. I'm already sufficiently tied as it is. She clamped one end around his ankle, then lifted a table at one end of the room and latched the other side of the chain there. Plucking the knife back out of the wall, Lizzie cut through John's bonds with troubling speed, smiling all the while. See, you don't have to be tied up. Here, use this table. I'll bring you whatever you need. Lizzie swept all the objects from the table like they were so much trash, then frowned down at the empty space. But you didn't bring your books. Because of the date. Is there anything you want me to bring for you? A cell phone with 911 already dialed in? He stared at her, still not entirely sure how to deal with this change. Licking his lips, excuse me. John spoke before he could fully think through his words. Can I have some water? Of course. Yes, water. You slept a long time. You'll probably be hungry soon. Just wait here. While she was gone, he did his best to rub some feeling back into his wrists and look around the room. The chain attaching him to the table leg was fairly long. He thought he could reach most of the basement except the far end and the door at the top of the stairs. Not that he could try anything when she was nearby and could return at any moment. He did try to lift the table though. See if he could slip the chain out from under the leg. It couldn't even budge it. What the hell? Was there some kind of trick to it? Or was she just that strong? I guess yanderes just have naturally strong builds. What can I say? John had thought it might have been his imagination, or she was just fueled by passion, but to move the table as easily as she had, that shouldn't have been possible. There wasn't time for anything else before Lizzie returned, bearing kitchen supplies. Just wait a moment. I'll make you something, and then we can be together while I make it. Isn't that wonderful? Superb. Not waiting for an answer, she laid her ingredients on one side of the table, and set up a chopping board. She began reducing vegetables to little chunks with terrifying ease. Knife a silver blur in her hands. Thought it said sliver for a sec. I know just what I want to cook today, but you can ask for whatever you want later, okay? I'll make you anything you like. Thank you. This is all I want, John. A peaceful life at home. Peaceful. Involving being tied to a table with chains. Okay. You and I have very different perceptions on what peaceful is, but I mean, hey, peace is peace, I guess. You can stay inside, ignore everyone who wants to hurt you. I'll keep you safe, bring you whatever you need, take good care of you, and never go outside. Of course you could go outside if you wanted to, but right now, I'm just afraid I'll run away. A reasonable fear. Her movements became more erratic, and John saw several chips of wood fly away from the cutting board. Lizzie was still smiling sweetly. I don't want wood chunks in my meal, thank you very much. Don't you want that too? To be able to just stay inside on bad days and ignore the world? I'm pretty sure I can do that without having to be tied to a fucking table. That did sound good to him. But when he shifted his legs, he heard the chain clinking along the floor, and whatever he had been meaning to say evaporated out of his mind. It's okay, I said it for you. As absurd as it was, the day continued almost normally. Lizzie made him an elaborate meal, and they ended up chatting over it, as if everything was normal. It felt wrong to do so, but he worried that doing anything else would just antagonize her. Did she really think this would work in the end? Probably. I mean, we've already long since established she's not riding ahead. Anything's possible with her, really. Honestly, he had no idea. And did she really need to do so much cutting for every single dish? Apparently. When they had finished and chatted for a while, Lizzie abruptly hopped back to her feet. Okay, just a moment, John. I'm going to go get your books, okay? I don't want you to be angry with me for making you fall behind on your homework. Is there anything else you want me to get from your house? Well, just let me know if you need anything, alright? I was still thinking, come on. She skipped away, and he heard the door above him close. He wondered if it could be a trick somehow, but after enough silence passed, he felt reasonably certain that she had actually gone to his house. Though she could have taken his key, he saw it still resting on the far table with the other things he'd been carrying. Had she made a copy at some point, or could she just pick the lock? Both terrifying prospects. Neither possibility was exactly comforting, but he didn't have time for that. John got to his feet, stretched, and considered his options. Okay, trying to remove the chain. There is a hammer and probably a few other tools lying around on a shelf nearby that he can reach, so he might be able to break the chain. Or at least weaken it, but even if you could remove the chain, there is the possibility that the door to the basement is locked, and if there's no other way out except from that door, Lizzie would come back, see that the chain was broken, take this sight very badly, and probably end up killing me for good measure. So, looking for weapons. I could try to attack her when she comes back, hide a hammer or something on me, and then figure out how to get rid of my chain from there. Looking for tools. Well, I don't really see how much of a different distinction it is from the first two options, but I guess somehow it's important enough. Make something for Lizzie. I guess maybe she might like the thought a bit more And if I can try to build her trust a little bit, she'd be willing to give me more leeway. But obviously I don't think not trying anything would be a bad idea somehow. So let's try making something for Lizzie. Deciding his best bet was to try to encourage Lizzie's good nature. John set to working with the kitchen supplies she left nearby him. His options without a stove were limited, but he did his best to make her something that looked like real effort had been put into it. He was no chef, but he thought she would like anything he'd made with his own hands. Strangely, the act of making something for her helped him forget about the fact that he was chained in her basement. The situation might be messed up, but perhaps there was a core of something salvageable. You keep telling yourself that. When Lizzie saw his gift, she blushed, then took it away hurriedly. John blinked, but didn't have time to object. Wait a minute. She's already back? Next time he saw her, though, she was beaming. Okay, so I guess we're just skipping along, more or less. Though John spent all of Saturday tense, Lizzie showed no signs of intending to hurt him. That night, she brought a mattress and bedding down to the basement, set up close enough that he could lie down on it. When he woke up on Sunday, he felt strangely normal. Still tense. The situation was far from ordinary, but in a strange way he had learned to deal with it. The Stockholm Syndrome is really starting to kick in now. That day passed almost normally. Except for the fact that you're being held in confinement. Since Lizzie had brought him his books, he tried to work through his homework, just like he often did on Sunday. Lizzie stayed with him most of the day, working as well. She made meals for them both in the basement and upstairs. Oh, whoops. But she always stayed close. He hoped for a chance to evaluate his options more, but never spotted one, since she was always leaning in to smile at him from the stairwell. The only thing he learned was that the basement door was apparently unlocked except at night. If he could somehow get unchained from the table, he had a shot at getting out. When Monday dawned, he crashed almost immediately and didn't even get out of bed. That was common for vacations when he didn't have friends to distract him, since all he could do was wallow in himself. It felt worse than usual. I'm not surprised there, considering your current situation. His world wasn't just gray. His depression was filled with flecks of anger and confusion. Only then did he realize that he hadn't taken any medication since Friday morning. Yeah, you should probably get your meds, man. When Lizzie entered that morning, she immediately saw how badly he was doing and rushed to the mattress, at first fussing with his sheets before realizing the problem went deeper than that. John? What's wrong? Other than you keeping me here? No, I'm sorry. No. If I let you go, you'll just hate me. It will ruin everything. Then, at least bring me my Paxitine. It's in the shelf above the sink. No. No, I won't bring it to you. I can't. I destroyed it. I didn't give you permission to destroy my medication. What? But I need that. You understand how serious my condition is, right? I know. I really do. But you shouldn't take their drugs. Not theirs. Well, I can't help but agree with her, considering that company's rather shady history, and how, well, frankly, it resulted in Lizzie. Well, to be fair, it's not like it was though it was entirely that company's fault. But you were taking something before Paxtine, right? Tell me what it was. I'll go get some for you. I want you to get better, John. But I won't let you take anything from Koitek. Well, I don't think going without my medication would really be beneficial. Lying about the medication could result in essentially a wild card of possibilities that could happen. Probably bad for me and John. Refusing to tell her would probably also be a bad idea. So, let's just be honest. Request the old medication. Thinking back, John tried to remember the medications that had seemed to do some good. Maybe they weren't as good as Paxitine, but they would be better than nothing. Okay, just wait right here. Apparently just remembering all the chemicals and names he listed, Lizzie hopped up the stairs and practically slammed the door in her hurry on the way out. Abruptly alone, John realized that he had another chance to act. Wow. So far, cooperating has not resulted in me losing a limb or anything like that, so maybe I should just make something for her again. Just keep cooperating. Since the previous dish he'd made had gone over so well, when Lizzie left John... So, when Lizzie... I'm getting really tongue-tied today. When Lizzie left John, set out to make something else. Given his limitations, though, it was hard not to repeat himself. This one made Lizzie smile, but he thought he also saw something in her eyes. When she took the food, he thought he heard her whispering about something about how romantic he was being. Well, I'm clearly wooing her if that's the case. Eventually, Lizzie returned, bearing a large white sack. She triumphantly emptied it out on the table, dumping an entire pile of pills in front of him. An entire pile of pills? What did you do? Freaking ransack a pharmacy somewhere? She'd gotten every drug he'd mentioned, even the prescription ones. He'd hated to think about the nasty consequences if she tried to give him all these at once. But instead, Lizzie just brought him a glass of water and sat down beside the pile. Excuse me. Take anything you need to get better, okay? I'll just leave these here, but you can ask for more water whenever you want. Thank you. Of course, John. I'm doing all this because I want you to get better. He felt like telling her that being held against her will wouldn't help, but her expression looked so sincere that he couldn't bring himself to say it. And it probably would just piss her off anyway. How had she gotten prescription medications anyway? He found the one that he had been most satisfied with just before Mrs. Smith switched him to Paxitine and took his first dose. Lizzie smiled brightly and skipped back up the stairs. After lunch on Tuesday, Lizzie started carrying electronics down the stairs. He blinked in confusion until she brought down the TV and started hooking everything together. Or at least attempting to. After a moment, she sighed and looked at him sheepishly. Do you know how this works? What, setting up a TV? Yeah. I can try to get it figured out. She got up and did his best to help. She had a pretty nice VCR, leading him to wonder why she had it and didn't know how to put it together. It wasn't like someone else would have bought it for her. Do you not use this much? Never. I don't really watch television. That would explain your ignorance then. Like, at all? No. She had seemed weirdly apathetic about a lot of things, but he thought she wasn't into pop culture. Yet now, something in her voice made him suspect it was something else entirely. What about music then? I don't listen to music. Huh, really? Well, what about books? Only nonfiction that seems useful. The rest all feels so pointless. What do you do for fun then? Stare longingly into the abyss, or across the abyss at me. She stared back at him so long, he was afraid she just might ignore the question. Well, sorry I asked. I do enjoy a few things now, thanks to you. Well, at least it's progress. I spent a lot of time collecting all those knives because I thought they would be useful. But now, it's a little different. Now I can imagine myself protecting you. All the details about grips, edges. They're not just details now. They interest me. So he'd given her an interest in knives. Fantastic. My sentiments exactly, John. Anyway, I thought maybe I could enjoy a movie if I watched it with you. Is that okay? We might as well try. I've had it all put together for a while anyway. We can try it. Lizzie brought a chair and sat beside him as they watched the tape. He was grateful that she at least watched the movie instead of him. It was nothing at all like how watching a film with a girl was supposed to be, according to his friends. Lizzie didn't seem remotely nervous during the scary parts, so of course you picked out a horror movie, and to his surprise didn't seem to care about the romantic parts. Then again, he didn't think he really would want her to react that way. It definitely wouldn't feel like who she was. No, I guess it wouldn't be. To his surprise, John found himself enjoying it too. Maybe his old meds were doing their job better than he thought. When it finally ended, Lizzie gave a small smile that he thought represented authentic satisfaction. Then she immediately turned to him. We should watch something together again, but I think I'd rather make our own movie. Okay. Just promise not to hold me at knife point while you're holding the camera, please. His mind immediately flashed to making porn together, and he had to force the thought away. What kind of movie? I would like to just film you. Here, working, or eating, or anything. I could watch it later. I guess it's better that you be watching a tape of him rather than him directly 24/7. I certainly would take that over the alternative. Really? Wouldn't that be boring? No. Watching you could never be boring. Oh, this is such a good idea. I'll go buy one of those video recorders and, not to cut you off, but wouldn't that be incriminating evidence? Huh? Don't... John, when your enemy is making a mistake, you don't interrupt them. Fuck, what was he saying? Well, too late to go back now. I mean, it's not legal to hold someone like this, and your basement looks kind of suspicious. You wouldn't want someone to find it later. Ah, you care! Unfortunately for him, Lizzie embraced him cheerfully, and despite himself, John felt a flicker of joy. When she was happy, she seemed so purely happy. You are such a fool. You're right, of course. And I'm so glad you're thinking about keeping me safe, even if I wanted it to be the other way around. John is so kind. But maybe later we can make our own movies, okay? Okay? Yeah. Maybe. Why the hell had he just done that? Stockholm Syndrome, my friend. Stockholm Syndrome. You're not thinking rationally anymore. You're falling in love with your kidnapper. Having a tape of her behavior would have been the perfect way to get the police to take him seriously if he managed to escape. But as soon as he had that thought, John regretted it. He didn't want to see Lizzie hurt, and hated the idea of her going to prison, despite what she was doing to him. It's for your own good and everybody else's good that she gets locked up and gets help. Real help. Despite the situation, he still thought of her as a sweet girl who wasn't entirely well. Yeah, so sweet that she'll set trees on fire just to get your affection. She deserved help, not punishment. Was this Stockholm Syndrome? I'd say so. Was she wearing him down just like she planned to? Probably. The idea disturbed him, but it didn't change how he felt. Because feels over reals, right? He needed to find another way. You won't find another way. You're just going to let her lord all over you till the end of time, at the rate you're going. On Wednesday, Lizzie wanted to watch another movie, but John suggested that might be too many. Instead, they passed the day quietly, working and chatting and ignoring the fact that he was chained to the table. He was feeling better than he thought he would without Paxitine, so his mind shifted to what he could do to improve his situation. Chatting with Lizzie was pleasant, but it wouldn't resolve their problem. But what would he say? Try to leverage the last few friendly days into her letting him go? Just try to make her relax more? Or convince her that he wouldn't leave her? So, Lizzie. Well, we already know that she doesn't really have much interest at all outside of, well, Johnny Boy here. Starting a conversation about romance. The only thing I can think of that might be a benefit to bringing that up here is trying maybe to figure out why exactly she picked John out of everybody else she could have picked. I think trying to find out about her peers will just result in us learning her dissatisfaction with said peers. She doesn't really seem to like anybody, really, except John. And morality could be a bit of a minefield, because her sense of morality and reasoning is so radically warped from a normal person's. It could go pretty much anywhere, really. Let's try romance. Maybe I can find out why she picked me. You know, earlier you said you didn't do much for fun before, but I'm not sure that's true. You seem to have spent an awful lot of time imagining us being together. Dates and everything else. Yes. I've dreamt so many times of our first everything. But not just our firsts. The second times will be wonderful too. We'll just get closer and closer together until no one can take us apart. I don't think I've ever heard you mention marriage, though. Oh, of course I want us to get married. But I didn't want to mention it because I've read that it can scare away boys. But But oh yes, I've imagined it so much. We should use one of those old cathedrals. I can wear a beautiful white dress. And the pictures. We'll have a perfect picture of us on our wedding date that we can keep forever and ever. Who are you imagining attending this wedding? Does there need to be anyone else? I'm pretty sure you need at least one person there to do the actual marrying, or it doesn't count legally. Oh. Yes, I suppose we need to have that person. And someone to take the photos. And it's okay if you want to invite people from your family, I guess. I don't really care about them. Honestly, no. I'm not sure I have anyone who would come. Aw, John. Don't feel bad. I don't have any family members to attend either. We'll make our own family, won't we? You really shouldn't be allowed to reproduce, Lizzie. I mean, it would be unfair to the whatever child that you create, because I'm pretty sure that given how badly your issues affect you, it's very likely that said child would also inherit at least something from you, and it's just no. If you're when it comes to you specifically, if you want to have a child, you should adopt. But even then, I wouldn't want you to adopt, because you are just not. You're just not regular person material in general, not let alone parent material. We won't need to care about anyone else. For the rest of the day, Lizzie was floating on a cloud of positive emotions. When she gazed at him adoringly, John found himself smiling back. The next morning, he took his pills with a glass of water, as usual. Lizzie waited until he was done, and then gave him a warm smile. I hope it's helping. You seem happier, John. I feel better than I expected. Pretty good, actually. I guess those Koitek medications that you were taking before really weren't up to snuff. Interesting. It was actually strange how good he felt. And it was easier not to think about that at the moment. Instead, he brought up an issue that he'd been thinking about for a while. That reminds me. I've been meaning to ask you. You've run out of Yondequail, right? I haven't taken it for days. I destroyed the rest of it the day before our date. Not surprised. You destroyed it? Why? It was useful. It helped me understand, but I wasn't myself while I was taking it. I wish you'd reconsider taking medication. We can't handle anything ourselves. Sometimes we need help. You don't understand. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. I wasn't myself. It was like someone had imprisoned me and took my place. Imagine if your own medication meant that you could never feel sad again. Just constant, manic happiness. That does sound horrible. Sorry I made you take it. Don't say that. It was useful. Having things be different for a while made it easier to see how everything fits together. But I couldn't take any longer than that. I wanted to be myself again. Now I can't help but wonder then how you would have reacted if I chose that other medication. Koitek doesn't want to help people, John. They just want to control them. Are you just saying that metaphorically? Or do you actually know something about them? No. Somehow I don't believe you. You know something, don't you? And I bet it also has something to do with the fact that the medication I'm on right now, instead of the one that was taking with Koitek, seems to actually be doing a better job for me than the one from Koitek ever was. There is some evidence pointing to you knowing something. Abby was an addict because of them. I never cared about her, but I saw what Koitek's drugs did to her. They didn't change who she was. She was always horrible. The drugs just made her identity obvious. Not like you, John. You're still so kind, even though you were taking that drug. But they won't be satisfied with that. Are you saying Koitek is some kind of conspiracy? Conspiracy? No, I don't think so. They just want money, and they're willing to cut corners to make it. I don't care what they do to anyone else, but you needed to stop taking that drug. You need to see clearly. He almost wanted to believe her. Koitek was a huge company, and those weren't exactly known for their ethics. True that. It was plausible that they had been testing some dangerous drug on Lizzie's mother, which would explain the recall. It had probably been too dangerous for adults, but had magnified impact on a developing child. Any kind of medications that you would take while pregnant would have a magnified effect on a developing child. You shouldn't be on anything in general while pregnant in order to encourage strong fetal growth. Last I checked, anyway. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on developing fetuses or anything like that here, but I'm pretty sure that's a pretty common sense thing for anybody to do here in order to make sure that nothing happens to a child while it's in development. Did Lizzie see that on some level? Or was she just paranoid about the company? Sometimes she seemed so, and you should stop seeing Mrs. Smith. She's trying to steal you away. I'm sure of it. Lizzie, don't be ridiculous. She's 10 years older than me, and the school counselor. I can't trust her. You can't. You shouldn't. Calm down. No one is going to steal me away. She stared at him as if she desperately wanted to believe his words. A moment later, she gave an odd little half-shrug. I came in to say I need to run some errands today, so I'll have to leave you alone. Okay, John? Yeah, sure. Okay. She left the room, and John knew he had a rare opportunity, but he found himself sitting and thinking. Was it possible that she was right about the Paxitine? Well, again, considering your improving mental state here, being off it and on your old medication, there might be something at least. He hadn't taken it in several days, and after a few low points, he actually felt much better than usual. The terrible irony of depression medication was that sometimes a drug could make you feel even worse, not better. Maybe the changes he attributed to Paxitine were just changes in his life. There couldn't be anything to her conspiracy theories, but he could believe that Koitek would push their drug on anyone with depression, even if it had mixed results. Things like that happened all the time. Abruptly, he resolved that if he made it out to the basement, he stopped taking the Paxitine as an experiment. He could stay on his old meds, see if he did better. If he actually showed signs of improvement, even Mrs. Smith would be happy to let him take older drugs. I sure hope so, for your sake, but someone tells me she might not. Regardless, for how he needed to take stock of his options and take some kind of action while he had the opportunity and energy for it. He felt like he'd spent too much time thinking to make an escape attempt, but maybe he could accomplish something else. I see the option to try to remove the chain is gone. Let's just keep going down the crazy train I'm on and just keep making stuff for her. Since the previous dish she'd made had gone over so well, when Lizzie left, John set out to make something else. Given his limitations, though, it was hard not to repeat himself. This one made Lizzie smile, but he thought he also saw something in her eyes. When she took the food, he thought I heard her whisper something about how romantic he was being. Okay, that's just the same dialogue. On Friday, John woke up, stretched, yawned, scratched at the shackle on his leg, and got up to brush his teeth. There's a bathroom down here? It was only while brushing his teeth and staring at the walls of knives that he realized how normal this bizarre situation had become. 1 week ago, Lizzie had been asking him out on a date, and they had gone out like a normal couple. It felt like a lifetime ago. When he heard the basement door open, he didn't even glance up. He knew it would just be Lizzie again. He just rinsed out his mouth and set his toothbrush aside. Good morning. Can you believe it's been a week already? I was just thinking that, actually. Hasn't it been wonderful? We've been together every single day. It's bliss. You know, we haven't done anything that we couldn't have done without the kidnapping. But that's the point! She skipped in past him, to the wall of knives. Lizzie held her arms behind her back as she examined them eagerly. Okay, seriously, could you explain what the point is? When we were together at school, part of me was afraid we were both pretending. Even when we were alone, I wasn't myself. Well, you weren't exactly wrong to assume that, but I'm not going to tell you that. Especially if you're holding that knife and wearing that big grin on your face. Lizzie chose one knife from the wall, caressing its edge slowly before taking it up. She turned to him, eyes unnaturally bright. A normal boy couldn't have done all those ordinary things with me after seeing the truth. You're not wrong about that either. You're saying I'm not normal? No, you're far from normal. And I helped push you there. And I would want you to be. She came closer, knife swaying back and forth as her gaze remained fixated on him. She was close now, close enough that she could have kissed him or stabbed him. I wanted you to learn that you shouldn't be afraid of me. You know I would never pick up a knife to hurt you, right? No, but you would pick up an axe to hurt me if I tried to run away. I wanted an answer. Why not? Why the fuck not? Whoops. Instead of answering a question that might not have any good answer, John leaned forward and kissed Lizzie gently. She gave a surprised gasp, kissed back for a moment, then suddenly pulled back. John, why did you kiss me? Because he's gone mad with Stockholm Syndrome. And I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing him further down that insanity because reasons. Isn't that what you want? Yes, it's exactly what I want. You've been giving me exactly what I want. This isn't right. I've ruined it. I've ruined everything. Holy shit, she's realizing that she was wrong to kidnap me. Lizzie, what are you talking about? You thought you needed to manipulate me, didn't you? Play with my feelings so I wouldn't hurt you. This is all my fault. I drove you to this. Lizzie rushed out of the room and slammed the door behind her. When she returned later in the day, she pretended like the kiss had never happened. John did the same, but he couldn't help but feel something was different. Now the question is, what is this difference going to spell out for us later on? On Saturday, Lizzie announced that she wanted to make a huge meal for both of them on the last day. She asked what he wanted to eat, then headed out for a shopping trip. As soon as he was sure she was actually gone, John got up and took a deep breath. He didn't have much time left before vacation was over. What did he want to do? So I guess cooking meals is no longer an option, but we have the option to try to remove the chain again. Don't try anything. Though John considered a lot of options, they all felt futile. He was basically in Lizzie's power, so he might as well accept it. He tried to find a more comfortable position, slumped in his chair, head leaned against the back so he could stare up at the basement ceiling. All he could do now was hope that she would decide to let him go. Maybe there would be something he could do to encourage that, but at the moment he had no energy to think. For now, all he could do was wait. Everything was in its place, including him slumped down in the chair. He could only hope he had done enough. He waited in silence while Lizzie went about upstairs, putting away what she had bought. Eventually she heard the door open, and she skipped down the stairs with a smile. John! How are you? I'm going to let you go tomorrow. Really? You aren't worried I'll tell someone? I am. If you told someone, it would hurt me so much. But I can't hold you here forever. I want to keep you here forever. But I want you to choose to stay with me even more. That would be best. That's surprisingly selfless and considerate of you. I see. You're not happy. After all this, do you really expect my emotions to be simple? Do you hate me? I pity you, big time, if nothing else. No, I don't think so. That is good. But I want more than that. I know. But you're going to have to wait. You can't rush a relationship by forcing it. I know. Next time, you can choose when to ask me out, okay? Okay. His remaining time in the basement passed easily, almost casually. They didn't speak much about what was coming, and especially not about what had happened. They watched 2 more movies, chatted about simple things, finished up the last of their vacation homework. And on Sunday, Lizzie appeared in silence and unlocked the chain that kept him bound to the table. He stared at her and wished he could find something to say, but his mouth was too dry to speak. Eventually he left. He thought he might have seen a glimmer of tears in her eyes, but it might have been his imagination. Somehow I don't think it is. But holy shit, we somehow managed to get out of that alive. I guess throwing common sense out of the window was the best option, apparently. The entire ride back, he tried to think about his experiences, but didn't even begin to grasp everything that had happened. When John got home, he found that the door undamaged. The entire house didn't look so different, as it hadn't been abandoned for 9 days. I think you mean there was only a single message on the answering machine. His father saying he was going on a company vacation. He hadn't even noticed that John was gone. None of his friends had called. He had been taken out of the world and no one had even noticed. That is seriously depressing. Like, holy shit. The only person who cared was Lizzie, but he wasn't there with him now, and there were still too many emotions to sort through with her. John sat down on the couch and simply felt numb. He fell asleep there, an uncertain amount of time later. He slept and did not dream. Brand new day. Brand new list of possibilities that could happen with our beloved yandere, Lizzie-chan. Just please don't set anything else on fire, whatever you do, Lizzie. In the morning, John felt surprisingly refreshed. He made sure to take the meds that Lizzie had sent with him, since they seemed to have worked so well so far. When he went to school, he would have to ask Mrs. Smith her opinion, because despite the absurdity of it all, they were still going to have to go to school. Yeah, I really don't expect this meeting with Mrs. Smith to go well. Lizzie wasn't waiting for him outside his house, which was probably a good thing, he decided. The walk to school in the crisp air gave him time to focus. Not that he reached any profound conclusions, but by the time he reached school, he at least felt reasonably okay. He didn't spot Lizzie at all. But when he reached his locker, he saw that a note had been jammed in the slits. It said, "Good morning, John," surrounded by hearts. Despite himself, John smiled a little. When he looked up, he saw Lizzie around a nearby corner, and she smiled back before vanishing. Still, he felt silly for having the new lock on his locker. Obviously, that hadn't been remotely enough to stop her. No, it was not, unfortunately. He drifted through several classes. Today, he wasn't too different from the other students, since they were all back from vacation and unfocused. None of the teachers tried to make them do very much. Here we are, Mrs. Smith's office. I'm bracing myself. After school, he headed to Mrs. Smith's office, not entirely sure what he was going to say. After so long away, however, he definitely felt like he could use some counseling. John, I hope you had a good vacation. It was okay. You? Spent the entire time working, I'm afraid. I actually tried to call you, but it seems you weren't home. Yeah, I was busy. Sorry. Oh, it's fine. I just hope you haven't lost any of our progress. Why don't you lie down and we can get started right away? Here we go. He got onto the couch, but things didn't go as smoothly as usual. Mrs. Smith was doing her best, but he just couldn't concentrate. It didn't take a genius to know the reason. He needed to decide exactly what he was going to do. If he wanted protection from the police, this would be his best chance to ask for it secretly. Or even if he skipped some details, Mrs. Smith might be able to provide some help of some kind. Or maybe he shouldn't tell her anything. It all worked out for the best, hadn't it? So far. Something on your minds, John? Oh, yeah. Tell her the truth. Ask for more Paxitine. Hint that you're worried about Lizzie. Lie about everything. Hinting that I'm worried about Lizzie might make her do something here that could just put everything in jeopardy between him and Lizzie, even if by any other normal circumstance, that's exactly what I'd want to do. But, well, yeah. Paxitine is obviously not going to really help with anything. I think it's actually just going to make John's condition worse. And just telling her full-on truth I feel, would be guaranteed to lead to some kind of unfortunate end. So, I guess, lie about everything. I don't know. This vacation was weird. I felt okay. Not great, but okay. Were you able to take a trip with your family? A change of scene might have done you some good. Nah, we didn't do anything. But I guess a few things have changed for me lately. Maybe you're right. Apparently Mrs. Smith thought he was doing better, because she ended their session early and let him go home. On his way out, he spotted Lizzie watching him from the shadows. He smiled at her and she smiled back, but that was all. And for now, that was enough. John started walking. The school year got away from him a little. Despite everything he'd been through, John found himself returning to something like a routine. He spent some time with Lizzie, but they didn't do anything too intense. Just shorter fun dates, nothing too romantic. The sky looked very gray to him. Everything still looks gray to you, man. But he felt lighter than he had in a long time. On occasion, he still needed to head to the library to try to look up more about Koitek, see if he could find out more about Lizzie's condition. It wasn't going terribly well. All he had to go on was old microfilm and random ideas, which was part of why he brought Lizzie, but she seemed uninterested. Eventually he sat back and tapped his fingers on the desk, wondering if it was worth continuing. Lizzie, when I was at your house, you made some pretty strong statements about Koitek. Do you know anything about them? No, I'm sorry, John. I can't really help you. Do you mean you can't help me because you don't know anything? Or you can't help me because you don't want me to know anything? It's just a feeling. A strong feeling. Not as strong as the sense that you were the one I was looking for, but I'm certain they don't want what's best. Sure, but does any corporation? This is different. After that, though, she couldn't explain herself any further. Seeing she didn't like the topic of conversation, John decided to let it go. It's not like we can learn anything meaningful about them. I mean, we're just a couple of kids. It's not like their secrets will be printed in the local paper. Well, we can leave it. We have more important immediate concerns, don't we? Yes. Actually, I had something I've been wanting to ask you. Can you have my liver? In which case, no. country fair is coming up in next month. Can we go? Together? Well, I've always thought it was kind of a cheap event. But maybe it wouldn't be so bad with you. Yay! I look forward to it. It was only later that John remembered something some of his classmates had said. Elementary schoolers went to the fair to play games. Middle schoolers went for the roller coasters. And high schoolers went to get laid. Was that what Lizzie had been meaning to imply? Had he just signed up for more than he had realized? You've been signing up for more than you realized ever since you agreed to go and get into a relationship with her, you nimwit. Dimwit. Let's go with dimwit. I don't even know what a nimwit is. But over the next several days, she didn't act any differently, and just seemed to look forward to it with innocent anticipation. So it felt awkward to bring it up. And the longer he didn't mention it, the stranger it got. And so, day by day, they eventually reached the date of the county fair. Lizzie met him at the edge of the fair, shifting from foot to foot eagerly. Her face lit up when she saw him, and she immediately hurried to meet him. Oh, you're finally here. This is going to be so much fun. I'm glad to spend some time with you, but honestly, I haven't gone to the fair in a few years. Well, I'm sure we'll have fun. Besides, the important thing is that people will see us together. What? Dating doesn't really count unless a guy's willing to go to the fair with you. Guys don't talk like that? No. But I'm happy to be seen with you. Yay! Let's go see what all they have. For a while they just wandered, checking out all the attractions. Since the fair was still getting started up, it was easy to grab some food and cotton candy, which Lizzie happily fed him pieces of while they walked. Thinking about what being there together meant for her, John realized that he didn't mind. After everything they'd been through, boyfriend and girlfriend felt like cheap words. Yeah, you won't get any argument from me on that, but not for the reasons that you think. He felt like the hardest stretch had to be behind him. He'd seen Lizzie at her worst. He'd be happy to be with her at her best. Oh, is that a knife-throwing booth? Of fucking course that would catch your attention. Of course. Just try not to throw any knives at any bystanders is all I ask. But we don't have to visit. Come on, let's go this way. Instead, Lizzie directed him toward a high striker booth. John kind of marveled at it. He'd seen them in pictures, but he hadn't been sure that they actually existed anymore. Some classmates he barely recognized were trying their luck at the moment, swinging the hammer high overhead and bringing it down onto a target as hard as they could. None of them got the slider more than halfway to the bell. John, try it. I bet you could make it hit the bell, Lizzie. The sheer power of your passion and determination will be able to give you the strength here to send the bell flying out of the tower and scare the piss out of everybody watching. Is there even a point? I'm going to suck. Oh, but try. Giving in, he inserted his coin. Just lifting the hammer felt almost too heavy for him, but Lizzie was watching, and so he couldn't give up. John brought the hammer down as best he could. It felt like a strong blow, but the slider barely moved up a quarter of the distance. Some of his watching classmates laughed. See? I'm pathetic. No, you haven't learned how to use your strength. Here, let me help you. Wow, this is gonna be embarrassing for John. And his girlfriend help him with a little strength test game like this in front of everybody. She slid up behind him, wrapping her arms around his and changing his grip on the hammer. With her body so close against his, the watching classmates stopped laughing. See, you need to throw your body into it. So set your feet like this, shift your hips a little. He felt like a little doll. He felt a little like a doll, being moved by her like that. But the pose she put him into did feel better. More of his body would be behind the swing now. Good, good. Now, try again. She backed away, and John took a deep breath. If he sucked again, he was going to feel absolutely worthless. But no, he couldn't let himself think that. Instead, he brought the hammer down as hard as he could. To his surprise, it actually made most of the way up. It didn't ring the bell, but it was better than he'd seen anyone else do. See? Good job! She seemed absolutely elated, even just with his mildly improved performance. But despite himself, John found that his mood was improved. They walked away together, ignoring the watchers entirely. I'm surprised he knows so much about this kind of thing. Oh, hammers are interesting. They're just very, very messy. You must have had some practice on some neighbor's poor unfortunate pets, I assume. I wouldn't be surprised if you're the sort of person that killed people's pets. I should have known better than to ask. There was a moment of hesitation in her eyes, but she saw his smile and then returned it. At another booth, Lizzie managed to toss every single ring onto the furthest pin. That one were a giant stuffed bear, which she just laughed at and gave to him to hold. For a while, he was having a great time. But then, still carrying the bear, he heard an unpleasant snicker. Let me guess, your friends. Are you fucking serious? You two came here to play around with stuffed animals? Dipshit. It's obviously a prize. One of his classmates was there with his girlfriend, pawing at her chest while she giggled and swatted at his hands. They both leered at John and Lizzie holding hands. I mean, what are you? 12? Certainly more impressive than a 7-year-old like you. Once, taunts might have bothered him, but now John didn't care. Shame Lizzie doesn't seem to feel the same way you do. He didn't even have any desire to prove that his friend was wrong. That was your friend too? Seriously, you have a piss poor choice in friends if they just mock you like this constantly. Even if they still admittedly have a point about Lizzie being kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. When he thought about everything he had been through with Lizzie, and felt her squeeze his hand, he just didn't care. Come on, let's ditch these losers. His classmate's girlfriend led him away, and John didn't really care about that either. When he gave Lizzie a smile, though, she seemed a little irked. You can just ignore them, you know. Yes, but that won't be satisfying. Come on, this way. That's the first time I've ever seen you wear this facial expression, and you wearing said facial expression while saying it wouldn't be satisfying to just ignore them has me very concerned, Lizzie. What are you gonna do? She dragged him to a narrow alleyway between two stalls. A little ways down, there was a closed-off space between several of the temporary stalls. Surrounded on three sides, the sounds of the fair seemed softer. He became very aware of how alone they were as Lizzie slid off her jacket. You want to do something not childish at all? Okay, John. It's make it or break it time. Are you actually crazy enough to stick your dick in crazy? Yes, I think I do. Yep, he is! I've given up on you, buddy. Everything that happens from this point on, it's all your own damn fault. Unless it gives me a choice to influence your decisions still at a few points, in which case it'll be partially my fault too. But I still will lay most of the blame on you. I know I can be a difficult girlfriend sometimes. Sometimes! But I want to show you that I can be nice too. He leaned back against the wall, needing a moment to catch his breath. Lizzie seemed to have no trouble, fixing her shirt and then rising to give him a hug. Wow, that felt amazing. Good. I liked it too. Maybe we can do more of this sometime. The cold air forced him to step away from her soon and zip up his pants. Still, he felt warm, and not just in a sexual way. Soon they headed back out of the alley. John felt like everyone must have noticed, but no one looked at them. Actually, things outside seemed different. The music stopped. I don't like this. He frowned and glanced at Lizzie, who paused for a moment, then nodded. Something wrong? Sounds in distance aren't normal. There's too much tension. As soon as she said it, he realized that she was right. It didn't sound like people were talking and having fun. They were upset about something. What's going on? Without needing to discuss it, they headed toward the source of the commotion. Soon they arrived at a densely packed group of people, clustered around a line of police tape. Police tape? Did someone get murdered? You could see a few cops moving within it, and spinning lights lit the entire scene in strange colors. But he couldn't tell what had happened. Lizzie shook her head, muttering something to herself. Not sure how to help her, John found a familiar face in the crowd and tapped her shoulder. Hey, what's going on? Oh God, it's horrible. Someone for our school was killed. You know, I was kind of joking about... I wasn't being entirely serious about someone getting murdered, but, well, shit. What? Who? His face was taken off. Entirely. They're still trying to identify him. Oh my. They removed his face. That's definitely, not like your average murder, I'm sure. Oh shit. Did they know who did it? They say it... I can't believe this, but they said it was some girl from our school. Not the couple from before. She stabbed 2 of the police officers, like with a knife. They had to be rushed to the hospital. Oh. What about her? They shot her! Seriously. Or at least that's what I heard. I just got here in time to see the body before they covered it up, but I didn't see the violent part. Let's see. He wanted to back away in any case, but Lizzie was tugging on his arm. John nodded a quick goodbye and let her drag him away from the crowd. John. Lizzie, do you know something about this? You know it wasn't me, right? You trust me, don't you? Well, of course I know it wasn't you. I was with you the entire time. I'm not worried about that. You were with me the entire time. But do you know something? There was another girl. Not like me, but similar. So there were more women who were also pregnant during those clinical trials. Is that what you're saying? In our school? Really? Her mother knew Abby. They got kicked out of a Koitek program together. And they were both pregnant with both of you at the time of these clinical trials occurring. If that's the case, I gotta now ask here, were there any other women that were part of these clinical trials that were also pregnant while taking these drugs? Was it like a requirement of these trials? For the same reason? Being pregnant? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I never liked her. We never really spoke. But I think she could have been capable of this. Then, what do we do? I think we should go. Stay far away from this. I'm not arguing with you there. She went with him to his door, and he kissed her goodnight. But they both knew that things hadn't been entirely settled. Not yet. He tried to watch the news, but it was all meaningless speculation about what could have caused the girl to murder her boyfriend so brutally. He had to turn it off after only a few minutes. Though there were still more questions. When he went to bed, he found they slipped away from him. Instead, he thought about Lizzie's happy face during their date, and he fell asleep smiling. Yeah, there's definitely something strange going on with Koitek. For sure, even now. And I'm pretty sure it also ties back to these clinical trials. But yeah, I mean, again, are Lizzie and this other girl the only girls who were born out of these clinical trials? Or are there others? I don't know, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and cut the episode off here. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Crimson Gray. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. We can try to find out more, try to find the answers to these little questions that are being risen up here in the next episode. I guess, maybe. Who knows if I actually will, but better than just sitting here speculating. Anyway, I will see you all next time. Take care.